Them tube. It used to be YouTube when they were trying to make it into something. They wanted the people to be behind it, but it got taken over by the corporate government, and now it's them tube. But that's okay. We have nothing but love for them. So let's pull up TikTok here. All right. Good morning, Foster Bear. It's a beautiful day. Just grabbing TikTok over here. Let's see. What are we doing? We need to go live. We'll go homeschool. Morning, Stephanie. All right. We'll do a homeschool getting started stream today, and then we'll just take it wherever you guys want to take it. I don't know. Homeschool getting started. I had a sluggish start to my day, so this is life. Okay, here we go. Let's get one phone next to the other. We are good. Good. My voice cracking. Good to go. The In Cold Mud Beavers. When I was a younger man, I used to run Tough Mudders. Which is about a 12 to 13 mile race over rugged terrain. A lot of fun. And my team that I was on were the In Cold Mud Beavers. You could imagine there were a lot of jokes with that. But nonetheless, here we are. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, YouTube. You are here with TikTok, and it is another absolutely magnificent day here in the sunny South. It was about 97 degrees yesterday, and it feels like it might get hotter than that today. But the plants are happy, and I better give them some water. Trying to plan a carpool for Crush Fest, especially with gas prices. Yeah, well, the gas prices are just a little bit upsetting, along with the food prices and seemingly everything going up in our society. But that leads to a good teachable moment in which we could teach our children about inflation. And if you want to teach your children about inflation, get two children together, give them a bag of M&Ms. Use organic alternatives, but for the purpose of people understanding this, I'm just going to talk in garbage nonsense. You get a bag of M&M, you split it in half between two children, and then you have something that they'll both really want. Maybe a Snickers bar. Again, I'm just using these, toxic, chemically ridden candies for the purpose of communication. So you have a bag of M&Ms, you split it in half between two children, put a Snickers bar there, and let them bid. Like, whoever wants the bar just has to give up the most M&Ms and see who's willing to give up the most. And then just start flooding the market with M&Ms, where, then you do a container of M&Ms and then talk to them. Be like, wow, so as more M&Ms came into the market, did the value of those M&Ms go up or down? And they'll be like, oh, the value of the M&Ms went down because there were so many of them. And be like, yeah. And did that make the cost of goods that you were trying to get stay the same, go down, or go up? And I'm like, oh, well, it cost much more in terms of M&Ms to get the Snickers bar. I was like, oh, so there was inflation, right? So, yeah, there's more money, but your money's actually there's more M&Ms, but your M&Ms are actually worth less. That's inflation. Well, that's what we're seeing right now in the world. And that's why mommy and daddy have been talking about the gas prices going up and the food prices going up. And, we told you that maybe we need to be a little bit more reserved with buying toys right now because the prices are up, right? That's a result of inflation. So everything you teach children could be taught in context. Everything you teach them can be relevant to the real world so they could understand it. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up that I did write a book, The Bear from Jekyll Island, which is designed to introduce children to the history of the Federal Reserve Bank and the history of the Federal Reserve Bank, the financial system, what is fiat currency, what is fractional reserve banking, things a lot of adults things that a lot of adults don't know that we can teach our children from a very young age. So, definitely check that out. Well done, Dad. Thank you. So, let's talk a little bit about homeschool getting started. And I just wanted to do a stream where I reviewed it because a lot of people have been asking me lately. And I think with going into the summer, it's a good time to lay out, if you are getting started with homeschooling, this is how you get started. Because people have all summer to think about, okay, what do I want to do with little Johnny's education come September, right? So people are considering homeschooling. So let's talk about what goes into homeschooling. Let's talk about how you get started. And, this way you're armed with the ammunition you need to, if you decide to go that route, you can go that route, which is super cool. Finally, good content. I've been scrolling and was like, oh my God, I'm done. Yeah, well, you've come to the right place. And we'll talk about homeschooling and we'll talk about a lot of things. I've seen what some homeschoolers can do. 50% of people have IQs less than 100. It's awesome. Well, luckily, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world to homeschool. So, if you're thinking about homeschooling, the first thing you want to do is go to HSLDA, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Their website, they have a map of the United States. Go to the map, find the state that you live in, and click on the state. It will pull up the regulations as it relates to homeschooling. It will pull up all of the paperwork you need in terms of why would you need paperwork? Because you have to file in most states. You have to, not in every state, but in most states, you have to file your intent to homeschool with the local school district. The summertime is the best time to file that paperwork because it's less comprehensive. If you do it mid-year, there's extra forms you have to fill out. So you send your intent to homeschool to the school district. I would do it certified mail so that they have to acknowledge that they received it, because some of the school districts play funny games. If they play funny games, me personally, I would immediately have a lawyer contact them. I don't play games, but most of the time it doesn't come to that. Most of the time it's fine. So you file your intent to homeschool, and then usually what happens is the school district gets back to you. You've been approved, and then you go back to hslda.org and you familiarize yourself with the regulations. So what are the regulations? Some states require you cover this subject matter or that subject matter. Some states require standardized testing during certain grade levels, right? Some states require you have a high school diploma. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're familiar with the regulations, and you want to make sure that you're familiar with your obligation as a parent record keeper. Now, understand, I run in freedom circles. So a lot of the times when I bring this stuff up, and this is so important, and this is to my members, to Homeschools Connected members, please hear me. Because you'll get a lot of these freedom people, and they're like, I don't answer to the government, blah, 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 right? I don't have to keep records. The records are yours. The records empower you. They don't empower the government. When you keep records, if you ever get into a dispute with the government, you will have a leg to stand on in that you have those records. When your children want to do things in the world, if you want to put them back into public school, life changes, you need records, or private school, you need records that show, okay, my child has done this or done that for the last 2 years, so they're not in 6th grade, they're in 8th grade, right? You need records. If your child decides they want to go to college, well, I don't want my child to go to college. Well, they're their own autonomous being, right? So if they decide they want to go to college one day, They need a transcript. They need records, right? All of this stuff. So you keep really good records. Once you do that, set up your record keeping. What do you need? You need to keep attendance records. You want to make sure that your child is documented to have done the number of schooling hours that is required in by the state that you live in. So if the state that you live in requires 181 days of schooling times 6 hours a day, you do the math on that, and you make sure your records show your child did receive that much schooling. Now, what constitutes schooling? Well, you have a lot of rope in terms of what constitutes schooling, right? A lot of leeway with the law, so you're fine with that. You know, it could be formal, it could be informal, you're good. But you want to show that in your records. You want to show that your children have taken required subject matter. So if second graders are required to learn about geography, you want to show that you did something on geography. You don't have to, but I like the idea of keeping relevant materials used, textbook materials used, things of that nature. I think that's just good practice in general. I think it's good to have. You want to keep grades, portfolio work if you can, and any extracurricular activities, whether that be museums, whether that be working a job, whether that be cooking, any extracurricular activities that you do with your child, you want to keep that record. And this is just your dotting your I's, crossing your T's, how to make sure you're doing homeschool right. So once you do all that, you can think about what you want to do with the actual schooling. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that new homeschool parents make is they try to replicate the 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. public school schedule, 45-minute blocks, which makes children hate learning in the first place. We have zero rules in Canada. We are free to do as we please, but I still keep everything in my cover to cover my butt. Yeah, and that's wise. And you don't have to tell, the records are yours, right? So, you can do what you want with them, but having them gives you options. So, to me, that's just always a no-brainer. The Real Wellness Warrior. I was watching one of your streams. Very, very impressive. And once I get this podcast running, I'm going to have you on. Four, do not replicate traditional schooling. Yeah. So, you have a lot of flexibility with how to do schooling. And when you first start homeschooling, Hardwood Bear, what's up, brother? That letter crushed. So, when you start homeschooling, you have a lot of flexibility, and you do not have to, replicate public school. Start with baby steps. Start with, one formal hour of schooling a day, because you're trying to climb a mountain, and you don't do that with big jumps. You do that with baby steps. Right? You climb that mountain with baby steps. And so start with an hour of formal schooling a day. The next thing I want you to do, if you just started homeschooling, is to look into the core four methods of, and there are more, but the core four methods, as I call them, of homeschooling. You want to familiarize yourself with classical education, with Montessori, with Charlotte Mason, and with unschooling. And by doing this and understanding the different styles of homeschool, you will be better able to identify which style is right for your child. For example, my son Brady loves stories and he bounces off the walls, right? He loves stories and he bounces off the walls. Well, Charlotte Mason is a very appealing approach to a child who fits those characteristics, because Charlotte Mason is, all the text, right? All the reading material are these invigorating stories, right? That children love. So it's a perfect style for Brady. And then, it also gives us the flexibility to do a lot of stuff outside, to get out of the house and let Brady run around, because that's certainly something that he needs to do and he loves to do. And that's part of his learning profile, right? That he bounces off the walls and he likes to be outside doing things. And we could certainly work with that, right? So you want to know the style of your child, right? There's classical conversations, which classical conversations. There's classical education. Classical conversations uses classical education. It's a curriculum. Classical education, it breaks learning down into three phases of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. You have the grammar phase, which is the memorization phase, which it's not that they're not doing critical thinking. It's just with certain things, they're memorizing. So they're doing a lot of work with grammar, right? Grammar, spelling, numerics, that type of stuff, language, right? And they're taking in as much information as they can. They're storing it in their memory bank, and then when they get to about 5th grade, it switches to the logic phase, and then that's where they start breaking into critical thinking and abstract thought. A lot of reading and writing, a lot of interpretation of stories. They start to read primary documents around 5th grade in classical education. A lot of that type of stuff, and then that prepares them for high school. So 5th grade through 8th grade is the logic phase. If A, then B, then C, your ABC logic. And then high school, starting in 9th grade, is the rhetoric phase. And rhetoric is the art form of communicating what you know to other people, whether that be through direct logic or through metaphor, or whichever way is the most effective way to reach people, right? The world lit up yellow from the bright lights of the sun, right? It felt as if the sun had wrapped a warm hug around me, right? Everyone could relate to that. It's our rhetoric, right? The sun had wrapped you in a warm hug. The sun didn't literally wrap you in a warm hug. You're being rhetorical, right? Like when you go online and people have all their political arguments, don't ever have political arguments online. When you go online and people have their political arguments, and everyone's trying to bring their logic, and most people aren't even logical, right? It doesn't work, and that's why I tell people, if you're going to have arguments, don't bring logic to that fight, bring rhetoric. Don't bring logic to a rhetoric fight, right? If you're having a political conversation, it should pretty much be all rhetoric, because people aren't as logical as others would like to believe. So you have then you have Montessori, which is really cool, which is kind of like learning through playing, and you want to set up your child's learning environment so they have music stations and art stations and building stations and mathematics stations, but they're learning through hands-on activities. They're learning through playing, which is such a great way to learn. When they cook, like, you should have stools that are set up so they could stand at the kitchen table and cook with you. You should have posters all over your house, mathematics posters, weather posters, days of the week posters that are eye level so they could see the posters, right? And they could learn from that. Just Montessori, learn through play. And then unschooling, the most powerful form of education, in my opinion, and really what I teach a lot, is the idea that you can follow the interest of your child, use the interest of your child to teach them whatever you want them to learn, and to develop skills, critical thinking faculties, and get them real world experience. If your child likes photography, you have them do a curriculum on photography, and before you know it, they're starting a seasonal photography business come October, right? So unschooling. So you familiarize yourself with classical education, Montessori, Charlotte Mason, unschooling. Then focus on, okay, how does my child learn? Like, what is their learning style? My boy, right? He likes to learn through stories and through moving his body. that's fine. Charlotte Mason's the right style for him. But every child's different, and ultimately it's what you're comfortable with. I try to mix in a little bit of everything. So, like, every child should be doing a little bit of classical education. Like, there's certain things like the grammar stuff, the arithmetic stuff, the language stuff. Like, you could focus on all that stuff in early childhood. You know, obviously, it's good to focus on logic, right, after they get to fifth grade, or fifth grade level. I don't care when that happens. That could happen in third grade. That could happen in seventh grade. You learn at the pace of your child. All right, that's really cool. Montessori, everyone should be doing, because it's really about setting up your learning environment so that everything they're doing, your children are learning. And unschooling, everyone should be doing as well. Like, you should be following the interest of your child. So everyone should be implementing some degree of all of these. And, you know, depending on your child's learning style, one could be more dominant than the others. Thank you for good content. Nothing to do for a while, so I'm restudying algebra as I listen. Nice. Which stream did I watch? Nicole had it on about a week ago. What were you talking about? I don't know, what were you talking about? I think you were talking about the relationship between Eastern medicine and Western medicine, and how it's not that you're against Western medicine, but Western medicine has its place, which is actually something I really resonate with. That, you know, when you first, in my opinion, when someone first has an issue or whatnot, you should see if an Eastern approach could get the job done, right? And that has to do with diet and lifestyle, and you know, there's other aspects to that, whether that be acupuncture and getting the blood flowing, you know, whatever it might be, or exercise. And then for certain things, yeah, Western medicine is absolutely, I mean, Western medicine will save your life, right? So, like, childbirth's a great example. Like, yeah, if you can do a childbirth at home with a doula, and like that works for you, that's great. But there are aspects of childbirth where if you don't have Western medicine, then like Western medicine will save your life, right? So I very much resonate with what you were saying, and how really the right way to approach medicine and health is it's the all hands on deck, right? Like, everything's a tool. Like, Eastern medicine's a tool, Western medicine's a tool. The problem in the West is that the money kind of dominates everything, so everything comes, like, every answer they want to give you is, oh, you know what the answer is? It's this intervention. I can't say for obvious reasons because we live in a tyrannical world. But basically, it could be summed up in, if you go to a surgeon, he only wants to use a knife, right? Like, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Right? And with the money in the West, they've corrupted the good parts of Western medicine because it's overprescribed for everything, right? And that's the issue we face in the modern world, and then obviously, like, these parasitical, that are pushing their agenda on society for profit and for other nefarious reasons, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. Again, I have to be very calculated with how I approach these topics. The younger, the better. Everything in life could be a learning experience. One of the reasons I homeschool is to teach my daughter how to think for herself. And that's where we want to focus. The primary objective of our education, right? is not for them to learn this or that or to adopt our worldview, but to give your children critical thinking faculties. And you do that through letting them read primary documents on people from both sides of historical events. You do that through having your children do hands-on scientific experiments and setting up their own experiments and having a relationship with the scientific method. We do that through the process of which we teach them grammar. We sit down with our children. We go over their writing. We say, I like what you did here. This is a thesis. I like that. This sentence is great. I love what you put, the information you put in this sentence. Very valuable information. I think it would have been easier for me as the reader if you broke this up, though. Maybe if you put a comma here, or if you put a period and then broke this into 2 sentences, that would have helped me as your reading audience to better understand what you were communicating, right? So you're teaching them to think critically about writing, about grammar, about sentence structure, about communication, about logic, about rhetoric, right? To think critically about these things. And this is how we raise critical thinkers. We have them read, and interpret and analyze and identify logical contradictions. We have them study the logical fallacies. We have them, at a young age, a book you can get them is The Fallacy Detective, which is pretty cool. The Fallacy Detective is a book I like for children, right? Which teaches them the different logical fallacies which they could identify in people who are making arguments to them and say, okay, I have to take this information with a grain of salt because I just identified a logical fallacy, right? So, this is how we raise critical thinkers. I got sunshine in my pocket. Just thinking about Justin Bieber. I do feel bad for him, though. I don't get involved in that culture and stuff. I don't like celebrity culture at all. I think they're all lying sellouts and whatnot. But I do have to say, I saw the guy do his announcement about what he believes happened to him. At least I took him at face value that he's not smart enough to put together what actually happened to him. Allegedly, could it be? Maybe. And, I don't know. I don't know. But, I kind of felt bad for him. I thought it took a lot of courage. He was out there, with his paralyzed face, and kind of felt bad for him. But I got sunshine in my pocket. The South comes alive this time of year. Those are squirrels fighting. Everything in the South wants to kill me. My son is 17 months. I'm a new dad. Crushing. Absolutely crushing. And we need many more. We need good people in the world. And this is a greater time than ever to have children. I think it's so funny. You get all these people who are like, oh my God, you can't have children in today's day and age. I was like, oh yeah, what do you have to worry about? Or is Genghis Khan going to raid your village? Well, no. Oh, what is it? Viking hordes are going to burn down your village, steal your wife, take your children? No. Is it like a hurricane or a volcano could come at any moment and you have no pre-warning, and everything you have could just be wiped away, seasonally, right? If you live in the southern United States, imagine having no hurricane warnings, right? Is that what you're worried about? No. What are you worried about? There's globalist bankers and transnational corporations. They're trying to hurt me. That's what you're worried about? Oh man, and man, good times really do make weak people. Just the fact that people are like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe this threat. Trader Joe's is coming for me. Oh no, not Trader Joe's and Walmart. Oh, people, man. People. It is a better time than ever, ever. I'll say this: maybe 50 years ago was probably a better time to have children than today. Maybe, like allegedly, but like in like keeping perspective, it is the within the 99th percentile of good times to have children in the history of humanity right now. And people are like, "Oh my god, how can you raise children in this world?" What are you talking about? Like reject their annoying, obnoxious, propagated corporate culture. Get back to what's important in your life. Follow God, embrace tradition, like be a great husband, be a great wife, have lots of children, and like don't worry about the material things, like garden and be in nature and spend time at parks and like life is so beautiful and it is a better time than ever to be alive. And the advantage that you have is unlike your parents, you've actually woken up to the bad things in the world. So because you've woken up to the bad things in the world, your children are like they're going to be stronger. Like your children won't grow up obsessed with the Hollywood culture and they won't grow up in the public school system, which is indoctrinating them into nonsense. Like, you're homeschooling your children, you're educating them right, you're giving them a childhood where they learn skills and, like, all of the things that our boomer parents didn't teach us because they were too busy trying to keep up with the Joneses and, telling me that it must be nice. Must be nice. Have lots of children. My children need allies in this world, and like if you can't defeat an ideology which is literally encouraging its people to abort their children, like, and to put off it's an ideology which is encouraging women to not get married until their 30s, to put off having children, to abort their children. Like, if you can't defeat that ideology, you don't deserve to defeat it. Like, who's gonna win? Ideology 1. Get married young, put family first, have lots of children, homeschool your children, teach them skills. Ideology 2. Work for a corporate boss, embrace hookup culture, sleep around a lot, don't take anything too seriously, definitely don't get married. Men, if you get married, that's just a money pit. You're going to get divorced and it will destroy your life. Woman, if you're going to get married, that man is just oppressing you. He is just oppressing you. That corporate job, that is liberation. You go get liberated with the corporate boss. And then after 5 years, when you hate your rat race job, you'll realize what a mistake that was, right? That is liberation, right? And don't have family, don't have children. But hey, when you're 50 years old, you'll be able to say, I bought a nicer bag. I mean, I know all my friends have children. All my friends have lots of children and grandchildren that love them. But I bought a Prada bag with my corporate job. Right? If you can't defeat that culture, you don't deserve to win the future. Like, this is not exactly a scary opposition here. There are birds beefing with a squirrel on the tree in front of me. I think the squirrels try to get near their nest and the birds don't stand for that. All right, hold on. It just jumped around a bunch of messages. Montessori is introducing practice master. Gotcha. New Zealand in the house. Look at that. Classical learners going international, baby. We do. We actually have a member of Homeschools Connected that lives in New Zealand, which is super cool. We have Canadian members. We have someone in New Zealand. I think we have someone from England. So Classical Learner quite literally has gone international, which is kind of cool. I like go on these rants, and I know like a lot of people that are new here, they're like, "Oh my god, how dare you? What is he talking about?" But I just don't care. Like I want to attract a certain type of people to Homeschools Connected. Like I want our community to be people that are open-minded, moral, um, like builders. Like that's who I want. Like I don't want people who are offended by everything, who like I don't need them in Homeschools Connected. Like it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. How long has the US schools been saying the Pledge of Allegiance? It's a good question. I don't know. I I like the Pledge of Allegiance, but I don't like the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, I like it because I do have an allegiance to my country, right? Like, and my ultimate allegiance is to God. Like country does not come before God, but within the context of that, I am proud to be an American. I don't care what they've done. Like I know they've turned America into an empire and they abuse innocent people all over the world. Like the government is not me. And like they don't get to take like America to me is amazing founding principles. It's checks and balances with I teach a course on this by the way. America is checks and balances within government. America is the Bill of Rights. It's this idea that we should be able to have political discourse. It's the idea that we should be able to get together and protest the government, have a redress of grievances, that we have a right to bear arms because the government is not above us. We are not subservient to us, and we are not subservient to them. And if the government becomes too out of lines, we do have a God-given right to defend ourselves, right? Right? Like, the government cannot just search me because I am not subservient to them, right? Like, I do get a fair trial of my peers, right? Like, that, people forget what an important concept that is, even if, like, the court system is so broken. No, like, that is a great principle that only my peers, only my neighbors can decide I've been guilty of something and can have me, locked in a cage or, my money taken away. Like, no, the government can't just accuse me of something and then say, oh, well, we're the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Like, I do have an allegiance to that. And I like that. Now, do I like that, children are mandated to do a Pledge of Allegiance every day in school? I don't love it. I don't hate it either. Like, I don't care if that's not popular. Like, I think one of the biggest problems we're running into in the modern world is they have made the truth seeking, more freedom oriented people become very jaded in their relationship with the government. Like the government lied us into all these wars and whatnot. Like, because they tried to conflate. They successfully conflated that Pledge of Allegiance, love of country, patriotism with spreading democracy. We have to go spread democracy in Libya, right? With that war, like, oh, if you don't support these foreign wars, you're not a patriot. No, that is subversion, right? That is not what my country is. That's not what my patriotism is. In fact, my patriotism is, because it comes from God first, is always putting truth first. That's why my Pledge of Allegiance is to my country, and then my Pledge of Allegiance higher up is through God. Because if you put truth first, then the patriotic thing to do is actually, no, one, the flag is mine, I own the flag, and two, I'm going to call out corruption. So no, your war in Iraq was not justified. Your Arab Spring in Egypt was not justified. Your all this stuff that the American military complex, industrial complex does is not justified. But that flag, you do not take ownership of that flag. I take ownership of that flag. The government does not have ownership of that flag. And then you'll get the people that come in and say, well, don't you know? Aren't you educated, bro? You don't even know it's not even our flag. They put little gold tassels around it. And what that means is that they changed the flag. And what that means is that America has actually been under military occupation since 1933. I know. I don't care about their little semantical, is that a word? Their semantics, right? I don't care about their semantical nonsense games. You could put your little golden tassels around it and say that that means that we're actually under military occupation and that my constitutional rights have allegedly been suspended. I don't care if you say that. God doesn't operate under your little loophole semantics games. I am a living man under God, and whether you put little gold tassels around your stupid little flag, right? It's my flag, right? And I don't care if you do your little semantics games. That doesn't subvert my rights. That doesn't take away my rights. That doesn't take away my allegiance to the United States of America under the Constitution that our forefathers agreed to in 1791. Does not take that away at all. It does not take away the Bill of Rights. It does not take away my right to a fair trial. It does not take away that I am a living man under God. None of your semantic loophole nonsense matters when you know who you are and where you come from. I do not care. I do pledge allegiance to the flag under the Constitution of the United States of America, no matter what you want to put around it. I don't care about your nonsense. The flag belongs to the people of my nation, the nation of the United States of America, and the people who swear allegiance to those original principles, those ideas that we should have basic freedoms, basic political discourse, and yes, that it should be under the morality of God. How young? How young what? I'm missing the context now. What age is this book for? What book? I'm way behind you guys. How young? What book? Bieber's face. Google what? Do a Google what happened to Bieber. He apparently his face is paralyzed. You know, I don't possibly know what that could be from. And his wife now has a heart condition. His wife, who's like 25 years old. But I don't possibly know what could be afflicting them. There's just no possible explanation to what it could be. I can't think of anything that could be causing their issues. They're 25-year-olds having heart problems and, Justin Bieber's face freezing. I can't think of anything. I don't know. I read an article that all of these heart problems that the young people are having are probably just from people watching a lot of television. Which, ironically, there probably actually is. Now that I say that out loud, there's probably actually a lot of truth in that. They do things like, ironically, I think they do that on purpose. It's part of like the MK Ultra mind melting program. But yeah, they said that those problems are probably just because people are watching too much television. And I actually, now that I say it out loud, I actually think they're mocking people. Yes, that's 100% accurate. That's interesting. Right? Because ultimately, when people watch too much television and start to believe everything they see on the television, it leads to them making certain decisions. Decisions which I don't think are good decisions. But what do I know? The television won't acknowledge any of these things, so it must not be true. The brainwashing device on the wall didn't say that. No, it's not that, because the brainwashing device on the wall would have told me. You keep telling yourself that. It's not that I have to tell myself, it's that the brainwashing device hasn't told me. The one on the wall? Yeah, the device on the wall. Oh. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for being here. I want at least 4 kids, but I'm homeschooling and homesteading. The Real Wellness Warrior is an absolute legend. What are your thoughts on schools telling 5-year-olds? Well, we know what schools tell 5-year-olds, but I'm not supposed to talk about that on this platform. So I won't. I'll respect the terms and conditions of the platform, but I think everyone knows how I feel about that. I also wonder when people ask me questions like that. I've found that I've actually been targeted, and I think it's often people just trying to get my accounts nuked. But everyone damn well knows how I feel about that. It's not like, this isn't like, come on. We're not in social justice land here. This is like reality. I follow God, okay? I'm a Christian, like a real Christian. You want to know how I feel about that? You know how I feel about that. Everyone knows how I feel about that. Well, they're saying they're making that stuff mandatory in Australia, but if you follow people like Tom Burnett, right, or listen to the Crow 777 radio series on his legal series, like, if it gets to that point, right, then you need to study the things that they're talking about. I have to be very careful how I word this stuff. Study the things that they're talking about. Reclaim your jurisdiction as Gabby, a woman under God, a living woman under God. And that's a legal, if you're not religious, you're not spiritual, understand that I'm not only talking about spirituality, I'm talking about a legal jurisdiction. I'm talking about all of our laws date back to the Magna Carta, right? And before that, right? So you have to understand that your rights literally, not only spiritually, but on paper, your rights literally derive on paper from God, right? So if you can reestablish your jurisdiction as a living woman under God, well, all of a sudden you're playing in a different sandbox, the sandbox that you want to play in. But you have to figure that stuff out. They make it very difficult to talk about this stuff. But Tom Burnett, Crow 777 Radio, you'll figure it out if you want to. You were made in his image. Give it. I mean, you were really cut off of a rib, and you were made from that rib. But I have fun. But you were made in his image, and there's a lot of power in that. Power that they've tried to separate people from, and you can rediscover that. Nicole, I just thought of our new joke. You're that pain in my rib. I love it. You're a pain in my rib. Hey, freedom over fear 3.0. I'm guessing from 3.0 that I would love your pages as well, because usually people that are on 3.0 are based. My niece is about to start homeschool. That's awesome. We are working on putting together a homeschool group for the next year, and I'm so excited. I love it, said Bonnie and Ben. How does it go? Will you say it again? Some of the time, said Skinny Doug. I'll tell you another. I heard from my mother. That's one of Brady's favorite books from the ages of 1 to 3, maybe. Love that book. I forget what it's called. I love it, said Bonnie and Ben. How does it go? Will you say it again? Some of the time, said Skinny Doug, but I'll tell you another I heard from your mother. Patty cake, baker's man, bake me a cake as fast as you can. Bake it and toss it and mark it with a B and put it in the oven for baby and me. I love it, said Bonnie and Ben. How does it go? Will you say it again? Some of the time, said Skinny Doug, but I'll tell you another I heard from my mother. I always enjoyed reading that book. I think I enjoyed reading that one more than Brady. But now Aubrey's 12 months old, so she's going to start coming into those books soon. Like right now, Aubrey's 12 months old, and she loves simple books with animals. Like, she's obsessed with animals. She loves them. She wants to read books about them. So I read her. Oh, I just bought her a farm book that I forgot to read her. I get her a lot of little animal books. I picked up a cool one the other day, so I need to figure out where I put that. I'll be introducing both Cubs to Bears and Tuttle Twins into my daily lessons. Yeah, and they complement each other very well. Cubs to Bears and Tuttle. Cubs to Bears, I kind of write abstractly and just overarching concepts that are introduced to children that kind of mirror reality. And then Tuttle Twins, I think, is a little more kind of direct to the point. And they actually complement each other very well. Not that I come from a libertarian perspective, but I don't. But I respect, I'll be using Tuttle Twins for my children as well. I think they're very well written, and they introduce great concepts as it relates to American governance and basic liberty and things of that ilk. Some of the stuff in Tuttle Twins seems a little sus to me. Yeah, well, listen, every parent comes from a different perspective and has a different comfort level. And, listen, I'm not going to say you're wrong if there's certain things in Tuttle Twins that aren't right for what you want your children to learn. See, that I haven't realized. You're saying the parents being overly affectionate. I haven't caught that. I need to. I guess maybe that's in one of the books I haven't read or something. I don't know. I'd have to look. But yeah, if that's a concern of yours, then I would definitely, if there's anything in any material you're not comfortable with, some people don't want to read Cubs to Bears or wouldn't want to read Cubs to Bears because in the Right to Bear Arms book, at the end of the book, I explicitly say, you have a God-given right to bear arms. And listen, if you're not comfortable... Oh, no, the cartoon series. Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that. So, I guess not in the books. Hardwood Bear saying in their cartoon series, the parents might be overly affectionate with one another. I can't speak to it. I haven't seen it. But yeah, that would be concerning, for sure. But like anything you have your children watch, pre-screen it, because every parent's going to have different levels of comfort with different things. But overall, in terms of their literature, I like what Tuttle Twins offers in terms of American governance, basic economic principles, and I don't love libertarian economic principles because I think it's too much like a race to the bottom, where it's no matter what, the objective should be to lower cost. But when you have that, then ultimately what you have is big corporations abusing people. You have workers, right? You have work being outsourced. I don't think it's good that all of American manufacturing is outsourced to other countries. I don't think that's... They're oh, but you get cheaper goods. Okay, so what? At what cost? People, right? It completely debases the whole system, debases the value of our money and our currency. And yeah, okay, so you're getting goods at a cheaper price, but now all the mom and pop shops in your area are shutting down, which is killing the middle class. Right? It's I don't like the race to the bottom aspect of that. I actually believe in economic protectionism as it relates to local regions. Local regions should do what has to be done in order to keep the manufacturing where they are. And I don't care if that rubs libertarians the wrong way. I think that the lowest mathematical number in terms of price of something isn't the most important aspect of an economy. And, like, oh, well, the freedom of it. Well, freedom of what? We're talking about corporations. And if you give the corporations too many freedoms, they actually remove the freedoms of the local population. And we saw that since March of 2020 because everyone's so reliant on Trader Joe's and Walmart, right? Because all of the mom and pop shops have been shut down over the last 30 years through outsourcing. So you get these globalist corporations who come along and say that you have to wear, you have to cover your face in order to shop here, right? So it's like libertarianism breeds corporate tyranny, right? So it's like I actually believe in economic protectionism. Like I believe in regional protectionism in which local governments should incentivize in every way possible the circumstances required to have mom and pop shops remain functioning in the local economy. And if you do that, you get better economies because it's not a race to the bottom. So I actually reject von Mises' libertarian economics. I think they're good principles, but ultimately they fall short. And that's why. But it's I'm still going to teach von Mises economics to my children. They'll read von Mises economics when they get to the high school level. I've read, what's the name of the book? I read it years ago. I think it's called Socialism by von Mises. It's a good book. But I don't know, that's where I come from, so. You can't suspend my rights without my consent. Without my consent. Absolutely. Rights are given by God and protected by the Constitution. Absolutely. You got me off math. Yeah, SADS, right? SADS. Oh man, the things people believe. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I'm not going to get too into that because I don't know where that falls in the realms of me getting nuked, but you guys all know how I feel about that. I don't watch much TV anymore. Yeah, I don't like TV at all. I don't like TV. I watch TV because my wife likes to watch TV, and I like to spend time with my wife. But I don't ever turn on a television on my own ever, um, ever. Yeah, you guys get it. The whole ASD situation. You guys get it. You guys get it. I can't do math and listen to you. I will destroy. Well, actually, I mean, I did break off into economics, so that's math, right? We're still doing math here. We're just not doing algebra. Like you lost me at algebra. What do you mean people don't just die for no reason? That's not what the screen said. Are you a denier? Do you deny the doctrine of the man who wants to give you an ouchie? Do you deny his doctrine? Are you a denier? Do you deny the religion of science? Have you questioned the priest class? Do you not see their white coats? Oh, you Christians and your religion. You do not see our religion, I mean our science. Okay. Keep telling yourself that. Oh, so yeah, Gabby, I didn't know if you were targeting me. I've been targeted in the past like that. So if I get defensive, just know it's because people try to hurt me. They try to hurt me. They do though. I've dealt with some crazy, like, there's things they don't prepare you about for, like when you start to get a big social media following, and like the depths that some of these people are willing to go to try to hurt you are like, man, there you see there is some mental illness in this society. Like there are some broken people, and they're like, they're not nice people. They're crazy people. I reclaimed my power, and all I have seen now is who is afraid of his power. I have been reading The Circle of Wonder to my son recently. I'm going to screenshot that. Yeah, it's not just Bank of America with their nonsense. It's all these corporations, right? It's all these corporations. Although it's funny, they're not. It's interesting. Like these corporations, they're not the same in Saudi Arabia. Like they're the same corporations, but their message is completely different. Isn't that interesting? It's almost as if they don't really believe in anything. They just do whatever they have to do to get the approval of the controlling system. So, like in Saudi Arabia, their governance, their leadership doesn't want them to have certain agendas, so they don't, and that gets them the money coming in from the Saudi government. And in the United States of America, the banking class, which is in control here, they do want that agenda pushed. So in order to get the money, those so woke corporations push those agendas on us. See, they don't actually believe in anything. They're corporations. They're dead entities. They don't believe in this stuff. They're responding to sticks and carrots in order to get their precious, precious little dollars. In fact, with corporate law, it's actually illegal that they don't, right? Because they are responsible. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to do whatever it takes to bring in the money, right? To maximize profit. And if the banks and whatnot are telling them that you have to push these agenda in order to get the money, well, they're actually legally obligated to lie to you. Just quite astonishing. The feral patriot is a denier. God's power. Many people go running when you say God or Jesus, and that's fine. And listen, you don't want to force your doctrine on people. Like, understand that if Jesus were here, like, Jesus wouldn't be going around like, do you deny me? Like, that's not how Jesus acted. Like, act like Jesus. Jesus, Logos incarnate, the Word in physical form, the Word of God, Logos, the Word of God, incarnate, reincarnate, carnate, physical form. Jesus was the Word of God in physical form, in human form. And the Word of God in human form didn't go around threatening people, didn't go around acting like he was better than people, didn't go around saying, but John 3:16, John 3:16, right? No, like, Jesus lived as an example. He was like, I put others before myself. I get down on my knees and I wash the feet of my disciples. As I'm being hung up on a cross, I say, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Right? Jesus led with love. He led with compassion. He led with understanding. Right? So when you approach your life, lead with compassion and love and understanding the way Jesus would. Because otherwise, right, if we're not leading that way, then we're not really spreading his message. We're, in a way, perverting his message, right? So that's what's up. He was loving, kind, gentle-spirited. And at the same time, like, here's the thing, the other side of Jesus, because then you'll get the people like, oh, he's so loving, and he is. Like, there's nothing like the love of Christ. But Jesus was also, in every way, an alpha. Well, above an alpha. He was, I think it's called Sigma, right? Right? But even I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end, right? Jesus is, like, he wasn't this soft guy either. Jesus was hard as nails. He was a carpenter. He built things with his hand. He rejected materialism. He didn't want anything fancy, right? He had calluses on his hands, dirty fingernails, right? He had dirty feet, right? Jesus was a man. He went into the Pharisees with a whip and flipped over the tables and chased them out with a whip. He was 6'4". He was jacked. He was strapping. He had a presence, right? Jesus, I don't know if that's right. Maybe. I don't know. Jesus was a man. He was a leader of men, yet he led with his compassion and his love. So, all right, guys. Anyway, I am going to call it a stream. For anyone interested in what we do, www.classicallearner.com. You get access to all the courses that I teach on the Bill of Rights, the American Revolution, propaganda, the media-industrial complex, our year-long nature unit study, which is next level. Everyone should be checking that out. Your children get skill development, entrepreneurial experience. You get access to our state groups where you can connect with other people in the state that you live. Our Pen Pal program, which is absolutely crushing. Our primary chat, where you have access to hundreds of homeschool parents with thousands of years of cumulative homeschooling experience. You get access to all that for the high price of $10 a month. www.classicallearner.com. Homeschools connected. Use the discount code FREEDOM, all lowercase, and it is, like I said, $10 a month. You could find me, Classical Learner, on everything.